Welcome to What to Do When, a podcast from real lawyers with real perspective, where we explore a variety of legal issues and scenarios. Each week, we focus on a new topic and discuss what to do when and if any of these legal scenarios ever happen to you or a loved one. With over 40 years of combined legal experience, our hosts offer their unique perspectives and insights on a range of real-life legal situations.
Hi, welcome back to another podcast here at Critzer Cardani in Richmond, Virginia. I'm Jackie.
I'm Scott. And Jackie, what's on the docket for today?
What to do when you've lost custody.
Lost custody. So you mean you're a parent of a child and you no longer have access to that child or very limited access to that child, correct?
Well, so I find it interesting. Some parents think that if they don't have the lion's share, more than 50% of the parenting time, that they've lost custody. That's not really how the law sees it, right? But for the most part, what we're really talking about is if you have less than 50-50 custody, or maybe you've been relegated to every other weekend, maybe you've been relegated to no overnights, maybe you have to do supervised visitation. Those are the kinds of losing custody. We're not talking about like a 55-45 split or expanded summertime visit. You get the whole summer where the parent had the school year. We're not really, yes, we can talk about that as well, but really we're talking about the parent who felt like they were very, very involved and then all of a sudden they're walking out of court with every other weekend.
Yeah, and usually the court's premise and where they're supposed to start is this is a two parents and we're at 50-50.
Mm-hmm, right.
And again, don't get caught up in counting days. That'll just ruin your whole life. But generally, you're sharing custody, and that's the idea the court's supposed to look at. And then from there, somebody'd have to prove that you've done something to take away and delete the amount of time that you have over time. So that's where we're in. You're in that position, right? We'll take the easy one. The common is to have every other weekend when you're in that position. You don't have week on, week off, or a 2-2-3, which is, you have 2 nights, then 3 nights, then 2 nights, then 3 nights, or something like that. But we'll just give you every other weekend. I think it's the easiest and kind of the common thing.
Sure. So you come out of court, you have a court order. Well, you can appeal it, right? You can take it to the circuit court and start this whole process unless you're in the divorce court, which is another story. Assuming you've been in the juvenile court, you can go out of court, you can file the appeal, you can then retry the entire case. It's a whole new judge with a whole new experience, same guardian ad litem.
Usually. And
could be your same attorney unless you fire them and hire a new one, or they decide not to take on your case on appeal, and the other side, if they were represented, tends to maintain their representation. But it is a new judge and a new courtroom and a new courthouse.
Yeah. And the biggest thing about that is you've already had a trial. So the things that they picked on your life about, you have the grand opportunity to go, those aren't issues in my life, and prove to a judge or the next judge or the next time you come to court that these are no longer issues. And that's what we really want to talk about today. Say, for instance,
substance abuse. That's an easy one.
That's an easy one. I was going to bring that one up. So you have a substance abuse issue, and wifey gets, the majority of custody. You're stuck with every other weekend, but you have to have supervised because they believe you can't handle your drinking. So what do?
I would tell my client to, first of all, enroll in a program, enroll in AA, but do it. Go to the meetings. If you have been relegated to supervised visitation because the evidence was strong enough to suggest that your drinking is more than you can handle or more than is appropriate for you to have even overnight or even unsupervised visitation, there's a problem even if you don't see it. So you got to come to terms with the substance to begin with. If the evidence that put on wasn't fabricated, and I haven't seen that yet, but if it wasn't fabricated like they do on TV, then you need to come to terms with your own substance abuse issue. And that means start first thing first, start at a meeting, whether it's narcotics on NA, AA, any kind of program.
And what sometimes helps people is realize what you just lost because of that addiction, or you don't think it's an addiction, but your kids feel like that or whatever. So that can help motivate you to get help. And I would say, I'll go one step further, Jackie, because I'm crazy town, but say they lied about your addiction. The easiest way to fix it sometimes is just go through the program. Let somebody else a treatment professional say, hey, I don't see any problem with this person. They don't. I think what they was told was lies. I went through all their history, walked them through. They've been on a scram bracelet for 6 months and not had any pop whatsoever, and all those kind of things. So there's ways to kind of submit to the process because you're clean. What does it, sometimes it's a faster process, I guess, to prove them to be a liar than sometimes to try to say, thou dost protest too much, and you're just like, no, I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem. But the judge has already adjudicated you have a problem, so write it out sometimes, or say, okay. But I like what Jackie said. Sometimes too, it's just a good idea to. This is how people are viewing me. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's a problem, but everybody out here is viewing this as a problem. I need to accept that and make some changes.
Right. Make some changes. So that's the first thing when it comes to substance abuse. What else do we see for reasons for parents to be, every other weekend parent? Work. I see a lot with work schedules.
Yep.
Where it's difficult. Maybe there's a swing shift. And look, no shame in that, right? We have paramedics, the firefighters, police, all the, public service people, not to mention military. I mean, you work hard and you work hard hours. Nurses who work overnight. I mean, these are difficult positions to have when you have a broken family or you're fighting for custody because, if there's a parent available in an overnight capacity, that's where the judge is likely going to put the child is with the more stable work schedule and whatnot.
Yeah, and that's really difficult too because if you think about it, say it's Jackie and I. Say I have all midnights and she has days. She's still got to work. So does the same courtesy apply to me when the kids are home during the day? And a good lawyer will argue that with the judge and say, well, Judge, I realize that you're kind of penalizing my guy because he works overnight and he has a babysitter in place, somebody else who's living in a house or a nanny that comes over and stays with the kids. But you're not penalizing mom when she goes to work at 8 to 5. The kids are unsupervised during that period and she has daycare and that's totally fine with the court. So you as a lawyer, you got to be smart about those things. But if that's an issue and the court's held that against you, and which they have, and again, it's not stability. I wouldn't call it stability. I just call availability. Availability. Really. And then you have to kind of process that, and you have to say, okay, what's important to me, and is there ways I can change it? Some people like working midnights. And they're like, sure, this is great for me. Well, is it great for your family? Right. And is it worth it to you to go, okay, I'm not seeing my kids as much because I'm working midnights. Do I want to reevaluate my life choices and my career? And, I want to be with my kids more. And I'm not saying you have to do that, but you have to realize that that's the hindrance. And you have to make big boy evaluations about what you're willing to do or not do to figure that out. And I think that's super important to understand. And even if you appeal a decision, say, Judge so-and-so made a decision that he didn't like your schedule and you're going to the court upstairs, that was if that was the only issue against you, that might be something to consider. Sure. How do I fix that or not fix that, or how do I explain it better or take better care or have a better plan or whatever it may be to maybe remove that hindrance?
I think one other thing, what to do when you've lost custody, and it depends on the reasons and the terms, but what's important, and I always tell my clients, ask for more time. Because the order is almost always going to say an additional time as the parties agree. Oh, yes. So ask, and don't demand, but ask. Hey, I'm available this afternoon from 4 o'clock forward. Could I please, have extra time with the child or children this evening? I'll make sure they're back to you by 7 a.m., 8 a.m., back to school, back to daycare, whatever that looks like. Ask for the additional time. Part of what the judges have to consider is whether visitation or parenting time has been unreasonably withheld. Yes. And we're not saying that, if you've got a substance abuse issue, you should be asking for more time prior to having that issue evaluated and corrected. This is just when this is the parent who works different shifts or has otherwise ordinarily been unavailable for an overnight sometime in the week. Well, we do see a lot as parents really get inflexible and, my kids need routine. Yes. They're in school, they do Monday through Friday from my house, and the other parent really shouldn't have overnights in the middle of the week. It depends on really how disrupt. Like if mom or dad, if the other parent can get the kids dinner, bathed, to bed, homework done, and up and out the door to school on time, it's in my opinion, which means really not much. But in my opinion, that's not a reason. I mean, that would be an unreasonable withholding in the middle of the week. If you found it to be disruptive and the child performed very poorly at school the next day, or you get an email from the teacher, every time the child has stayed with the other parent in the middle of the week, you get an email that says, hey, I had a really hard time getting so-and-so to focus, or they were really combative today. I mean, that's something different, right? We would cross that bridge, but you have to give the other parent the chance.
Yeah, and quite frankly, kids are malleable to what we work with. And, if you're the parent and if you're truly worried about Johnny not doing his homework at Dad's, you can say to Johnny, hey, I expect you to do your homework at Dad's house. For sure you can. And I expect you to get up in the morning and go to school, and I expect you to do all the things. And you should be doing that as a parent because that's their best interest.
Absolutely.
Instead of, we see the whole sabotage a lot where well, he wouldn't get out of bed. Well, what did you do? I didn't do anything, kind of thing. And so, again, let the other parent, if they're being unreasonable, show their unreasonableness. You do the right thing and, remove the hindrances. And I was trying to think of the other one is corporal punishment can be a big thing. In today's unfortunate area that we're in, it's like some people think that a child should never be spanked. Some judges think that that's the worst thing in the world. Even though I think constitutionally you have the right to discipline your children how you want, it doesn't always play out like that.
Right.
And, so you really got to be careful with that. And you got to really make evaluations what's important to you. Because there are a lot of ways to discipline your kid. It doesn't have to be that way.
For sure.
For sure. But, sometimes people have values and beliefs and things like that. And, again, what I'm saying is if it costs you with Judge X to lose your custody, you may want to put down your pride for a minute and say, my kids are more important than whether I spank them or not.
And whether the court agrees with my position on it.
Yeah, exactly. So those are the issues. And again, I agree with your position on it, don't get me wrong, but
sure.
That's not the issue. So sometimes you have to be bigger than the issue and say, okay, this issue has cost me. Is this a hill I want to die on?
For sure.
And there are I'm getting more and more as I've practiced law as long as I have, getting more and more to the point there are hills that we have to die on.
Yes.
And that's a conversation between you and your lawyer and really talking it through, and that's what we would be here to help. But when you've lost custody, your first thing should not be outrage outward. It should be kind of introspective. Okay, what happened? And let me evaluate that. Let me think about that. Let me at least put down all my pride for a second and say, okay, this is what happened to me. These are the things the judge said to me. It doesn't mean you have to agree to them. Listen to them, though. And that helps you prepare your future and say, okay, these are some things that the judge didn't like. And let me think about those. And that's, a lawyer can really help you with that. Is that a hill you need to die on or is not? Or
and
whatever.
even if you don't appeal it and you just take the 6 months or the year to work on you and get those things straightened out, the custody is not permanent. It is always modifiable. But so once you become introspective, the other thing we want you to do is make sure you're asking for additional time when it's appropriate. Again,
yeah, it's big time.
And last but not least, use the time that's been awarded to you. Don't give it away. Don't send the child to be with grandparents. Don't send the child to be with aunts and uncles, or, if slumber parties are a little different. Does your child or do your children need continuing relationships with grandparents and aunts and uncles? No doubt about it. Absolutely, yes. That doesn't mean they can't go see them, but if they're going to go, you go. Okay? You use the time that the court has determined is appropriate for you as the parent. When you don't use the time the court's already provided for you, you're going to have a really, really difficult battle asking for more time.
Absolutely. Okay? Yeah, that's very smart. And, there's a lot of ways we don't use our time, and we can get into that later, but basically don't let your kids come to the house and you do something completely different, isolated from them, and they're doing their own thing. That's the same thing. So be very careful. Use your time. Engage your children. People worry, I don't have a lot of money. You don't have to have a lot of money. There's plenty of free parks and things that take a walk together. You can do all kinds of things to engage them. Read a book together. Whatever you want to do. Raising children doesn't necessarily cost money and spending time with them all the time. Obviously, it costs money because they're expensive little boogers, but you can make it. You can do things. You can be creative. There's all kinds of websites that help you be creative with that. So be creative with your time. Find things that your kids like to do and try to do those with them. So you're engaging and you're building a relationship.
If you found yourself in a situation where you have lost custody or you've been awarded less time than you think is necessary or appropriate in your case, give us a call. We are happy to talk to you. 793-8010, or visit our website at cclawva.com. We're happy to hear from you at info@cclawva.com.
We're here to help.
Like and subscribe. Thank you.
Thank you.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of What to Do When. For more episodes, be sure to subscribe to our podcast, and we encourage you to check our archives to listen to previous topics. Tune in next week for a new episode and some fresh perspective from Critzer Cardani.